Well, good afternoon and welcome to the afternoon of day 2 of Gloucestershire Business Show 21 and the Business Insights 21.3 project. We're welcoming you to the offices of Clockwise in Cheltenham, who've been really kind and hosted for us our live stream broadcasts for this event. And a great session today coming out of the visitor economy set up with a partnership here with Visit Gloucestershire and County Business Shows. And we're looking at the visitor economy, Procure local. It's a really important thing as we come out of the recession that we start thinking about how we can support an economy and create a circular economy in Gloucestershire. We're being chaired today by Steve Gardner-Collins for this, Director of Visit Gloucestershire. Steve, just tell us a little bit what we're going to hear in the next hour.
Yeah, we've got the sector visitor economy reopening quite hard hitting this week. We've got indoor hospitality, more businesses able to reopen. How do those businesses procure local at the moment? How connected to Gloucestershire are they to the supply chain? And we're going to iron out and answer some questions around how we can procure better for a sustainable future.
That's really good. And whether you look at it as sustainability, climate, or just simply circular pound and helping Gloucestershire build, I think that's really important. Now, one of your panel members is Jonathan here, and you're from the Cheltenham Trust. You're the commercial director, is that right?
I am indeed, yeah. Commercial and catering, yeah.
Now, Cheltenham Trust, for anybody who's not tuned in, runs the town hall, the pump rooms, the leisure centre, the Prince Wells Stadium, the Wilson Art Gallery. Thank you very much. And in that sense, you're really embedded in the Cheltenham, certainly, economy. Absolutely. And you've got catering outlets and you've got all sorts going on across that piece. So it's been a quiet time for retail outlets for the last year, catering retail outlets, as I'm sure you're very much aware. But as we rebuild and we reopen, procuring local, supporting the Gloucestershire economy, what does that mean for the Trust and for you and your role?
Well, absolutely. It's massive for the Trust. We are... our main ethos is culture and community. The first thing that the Trust did was bring its catering in-house. And now that we're, the other side of this pandemic, hopefully, things reopening, we're looking to, have that community element through our local suppliers, through getting those stories. People love a story. So, working with those local suppliers, having that local community feel and going out to our consumers.
Brilliant. And I'm hoping that going forward, that should really begin to make a difference
absolutely.
In the whole county. Well, great. Enough from me. Steve, it's going to be an interesting hour. Over to you.
Great. Thanks, Pete, and thanks, everyone, for joining us. I'll introduce our panel. Jonathan's had a very big introduction already. So we'll go to Dominique next. Dominique, tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Dominique Fern, and I am the founder of a Provenance-led premium ready meal, the Wild Hare.
Great, okay, so some interesting conversation to come around provenance and food and drink. I think we should definitely start visitor economy, hospitality. I said in the intro, it's just reopened. Just because we work in the sector, we also want to go out and celebrate. We've all been stuck at home, the three of us. Yep. Been working from home and being with the kids at home and everything over the last year, all over a year now. And actually for the sector itself, it's been a real close, open. So our perspectives in business and also in our personal lives are just as important. But when we actually think about reopening, I think we think about economic recovery and actually our contributions to the local economy here in Gloucestershire. So Jonathan, perhaps tell us a little bit about preparations for reopening, writing menus, thinking about ingredients. Yeah. How easy has it been to procure local?
It's a difficult challenge. I think for the Trust, what we try to do is, so we've moved away from things like using the big companies such as Brakes, that kind of companies, and tried to procure local. But at the same time, you still need that big kind of, I don't want to use the word wholesaler, but you still need that big point of contact where you can get most of your produce from. And we use Creed because they do have that local ethos. They are close by. They do use local providers. But we do want to start engaging more with the local, with local suppliers, really. But it is a challenge. But it's a phenomenal time to do this, I think. There's a lot of negative that has come out of COVID, a lot of negative that's come out of this pandemic, but I think there's going to be a lot of positives now. We've had the chance to, as you say, we've had 14, 15 months of open, close, where we can now really see, was that the best way of doing things? Is there a better way of doing it? But I do think it is hard to engage with those local suppliers.
I do think, though, sorry to interject, it's shortening those supply chains will create there to be a more premium product getting to such outlets as Jonathan's at a better price, because we are shortening those supply chains, so we're getting to that farm to fork easily, and it makes a better product more feasible to buy at a better price.
Yeah, when you think about, I'm a hotelier, we've been writing menus for the last month, we've been looking at supply chain and how local and relevant our menus are when we talk about the Gloucester sausage or where our cheese comes from and how locally we buy. Shortening the mileage on the food mileage and making it more local is a nicer experience for the customer, because they really feel like they're contributing when they're buying to the local economy. But at the same time, I guess you've both alluded to the fact that it can be a struggle. So I suppose to really start us off in kind of where we're at currently, we're thinking about what is the current arrangement within Gloucestershire? How easy is it to buy local right now? So, how local is it for you guys to be able to do that?
I would, first of all, I'm not a huge fan of the word local, because local doesn't always mean it's right. Local can mean you're buying a very intensively farmed piece of meat from a butcher and they've said it's from Gloucestershire. So I think it's being able to open that question up about what amazing things do we have going on near us, and I think that's been highlighted in a strategy with the Gloucester Food Strategy, and how do we bring all those people that are doing the right things together, and creating some kind of buying power between that for somebody like myself that needs to procure from a wholesaler type to be able to have uniform product. So I would move, so I know it means local as in Gloucestershire, but I think we have to think about not just local, what is local and farmed or grown or whatever it might be in the correct provenance terms.
And are we putting pressure, therefore, on suppliers? We've got Creed in the county, we've mentioned 3663 and others. And I guess there's a pressure on them to be able to buy local as well, to be able to sell us. And I know the phrase local could be widely stretched, and provenance comes in there too. And also, it's got to be the right product for the right price to be able to deliver it to the customer, who ultimately makes a decision whether they can afford it or not. So there's an affordability thing going on. And I know when we're pricing menus, that's a real stretch to be able to reach margins, particularly in hotels where we're and I guess it's the same at the trust. We've got margins to achieve, and you can't always think local. So in terms of recovery, thinking about how we actually put this together, any thoughts on how you've been able to successfully buy local or stretch out further into networks that allow you to responsibly purchase, but perhaps aren't within Gloucestershire?
And isn't it such a shame that it seems to be that food always has that price tag there, and there is so small margins to be made, and certainly smaller when there's efficacy and ethical buying practice in what people like ourselves are doing. Yes, there are groups coming together, and we buy through a meat group, but a very, very, very effective grain and pulse group, which is a company called Hodmedod's, which is in the east of the country, where farmers know that they need to turn away from these systems of monoculture growing wheats and barleys, and grow things that can grow easier here in the UK. And they've come together and now can effectively deliver British-led grains and seeds and pulses to larger scale commercial outlets. And if we could, knowing that we've got such a large scale farming community in Gloucestershire, if we could put that together as a group buying power, we could still go outside of it, but the whole driver could be from Gloucestershire to have these regenerative farmers come together and create that route to abattoir, to wherever it need be, to your outlets. Then I think it would be really successful, and it would stamp the Gloucestershire on the map of having a really good buying community.
Yeah, I was just thinking then about kind of we're planning something, aren't we? Where we're thinking a bit more medium, long term to an outcome for making procurement in Gloucestershire more successful. Kind of at a short term stage where we're just reopening this week and putting menus together right now. We don't have that option. How easy do you think, and how quick, thinking about sustainability, bit more 2021, how successful and how soon do you think we could pull that sort of group together? Are the networks tight enough? Do you find there are those options readily available?
I would say initially it's about not so much the easy wins, but because we spoke earlier about the margins in hospitality, they are tight when it comes to food costs. I think it's about looking at what can we do when looking at the entire menu and the entire dish. What are those, say, easy wins, if you like? Which product can we get local at the moment that we know we can get into our supply chain easy, and it's got that story and it'll drive it? Because I think that's how we need to start it off. We need to pick a couple of products that we go, this is an industry at the moment in Gloucestershire that we can target, that we can get into the supply chain easily.
Everybody focus on those products and really stamp that as a
build the strategy from that, and then that builds the wider network. Then you're bringing people in. You've got that basis there at the start. Because if you go too big at the start, it's, we don't really have the time to put this together. We're remobilising an entire industry that is facing, the challenge of COVID, the challenge of Brexit, the challenge of people deciding, actually, after 14 months of furlough, do I want to go back into hospitality? So there's a lot of challenges at the moment, wider than this. I think we just need to really just focus down into those key products that we can easily get into the supply chain.
Yeah, Dominic, you were talking earlier about buying for your business, and you've already mentioned some of the conversation around the network being wider than local. But talk to us about how you have managed to bring something together in order to deliver your ethos of your company.
And that would be collaboration. And collaboration is probably the only way with tight margins that you can make something work when you are producing a provenance-led food product. And so we have some great farms, which is working at a certain level, which all come together, and we use one vehicle to bring all the ingredients in, which then takes it all off to the kitchen, which produces the food. So they all work together to have a drop with our local farmers, and this is at farmer grass level. So it's been working effectively, but as we're scaling, we're going to start seeing more problems. So we've had to sort of bring in another group to back that, and that's a shame, because that's moving us outside more of local, where if we could get a little bit more going on and reach these people, we could keep more to this local level, maybe easier.
Where's the struggle been in not having to take that step to that next group? Where's the struggle come in? Not having the network around you?
Not having the network. Working, a struggle has been on uniforming products, so taking farmers to a next stage themselves when we're working with them at that level, getting them to understand that in the realms of food standards, we have to have a piece of beef cut to 2 centimetres by 2 centimetres because we've told food, so it's the larger intensive farm systems that are used to working with that, and the other ones that aren't. So it's more been a struggle on trying to get them to understand what it means now. We'll work with you to sort of get there, but we need to make sure that your butchery plant is understanding what it means to deliver into a commercial setup, into retail.
Okay. Yeah, really interesting. And I suppose that takes us nicely into thinking about when you are a chef, perhaps, and you're running your own kitchen, or you're working in a business where you are independently responsible for putting your order in on a Tuesday at 2:00, and that's your deadline. We're trying to discuss and decide whether there's a kind of a local spin on them being able to source locally, but they don't have a lot of time. Yeah. They're on a 2:00 deadline. I suppose, Jonathan, you can echo that.
That's a big issue. I think if I were to turn to my chef and say, okay, you got this guy, but you got to call it in by 11. You're like, well, I'm in the middle of food service at that time, kind of thing. I think that's the big issue. One of the reasons why a lot of companies do pull away and go to more towards the wholesalers, because they've got an online portal. They just go online, 11 o'clock at night, place their order, it's delivered the next morning, kind of thing. I think
it's a bit Amazon-ish.
Yeah.
But within the food supply chain.
Yeah, but that's the issue, because the industry is non-stop. You're working those long hours. You don't sometimes have the time to be picking up and ringing each individual supplier, really.
But behind the back of that, so a wholesaler's buying off, say, me, and you know, instead of us going direct, we will do that. So in the back of that, we are having to prepare our teams to a level we don't know what's been ordered. So we are creating orders because the orders were like this last week to go into whoever to make sure they're coming out, and that creates waste, and waste isn't sustainable. Because we don't know. But if we were having these shorter supply chains and dealing more direct and working with chef level of different things, we have more time because we're not having to go through that third party to maybe have less waste and become more sustainable, more effective businesses.
So what we're kind of thinking really is we've got to put together some sort of system, the mechanics behind letting growers and producers and agents actually have access to a portal that then the chef or the buyer can log on to, and even if it is 11 o'clock at night, be able to order what they need for tomorrow. But there's got to be some efficiencies made around availability, because at 11 o'clock at night, you'd have this order coming through, and that's for tomorrow morning, and you don't know about it necessarily. Yeah. The structure of this is a big impact change, big structural change infrastructurally for businesses who otherwise at the moment aren't used to working at that sort of level, particularly locally perhaps. I know we've sat with farmers and growers, as you were saying, and this is a levelling up period for them. So I suppose my next question is, what do they need to kind of level up their end before we can put the demands on them, thinking that this is a great idea, but actually they're the ones that have got to deliver on the product the next morning? What are our thoughts on the support that they need?
Well, I think as things get bigger, and this is why the wholesalers don't use the local suppliers so much, because they can, you know, have such better buying powers and readily available product instead of looking at what could be around them. I think that there should be a lot more local farms coming together with sort of pop-up retail businesses that service their region of pubs, restaurants, whatever it might be, and they start growing to what is required. So they have less waste. They have a definite contract with where it's going, instead of it buying through larger scale wholesalers. There's a place for wholesalers, but when we're thinking local and making sure they get to where they need to go, there should be more partnership between that farm to make that farm. You know, farming, I feel sorry for farmers. Everything's against them, isn't it? And now we've got veganism, just to throw it in there. So, you know, why don't they work much more on partnership, understand what they need to grow seasonally, make sure they're growing it and deliver it in. They're all getting much more savvy. There's much more of them around that have come up after COVID. They are coming together with their own vehicles, transport. So if we are looking at only, you know, localized food sustainability and supply chain, then make these postcodes work with farmers and the local tourism industry.
Jonathan, your thoughts on from your perspective as a business? We're asking a lot from the farmers, if you like, to kind of set us up and get ready to be able to buy local from them. What support could we perhaps do as a sector, do you think, to help them level up? I'm thinking like government grant perspective, big infrastructure change, but is there anything that as a trust that could be invested in some sort of programme perhaps to support the supply chain? Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's a difficult one, as it's been highlighted today, but I do think we can support them. I mean, yes, there is better preparation for the chefs, so we're not calling in at 11, but you will always have that issue of, you know, you weren't expecting to be that busy, and you touched earlier on wastage. I think every point has wastage. So if you do have that third party and you've got wastage at the farm, did they, you know, was the order not as big as they anticipated, wastage at the third party, and then wastage that we then suffer as well because, you know, we ordered in a lot of food and didn't expect it. Probably working on a system that captures the data and helps us see those peaks and troughs, really, because for us as a business, we could tell you right now that we're not going to be as busy when it's raining. Like the weather in May has completely turned about what we were looking like back in April. So I think there's a system that we can work on with data that allows us to go, okay, we know roughly the level that we're going to need, and then it's working on. I think it's as well working with consumers to understand that not having that a product selling out isn't a problem, that you've still got an extensive menu. I think there's that feeling that you know, that consumers will be really expecting that product to be there, and if you don't have that certain chicken that day, or the fish dishes ran out, for example, that all hell will break loose almost. So I think there needs to be a perspective change as well with the consumer, and just explaining to them that there is still a full menu there, but that dish just isn't on tonight.
We as the human race, we now, because we can get anything we want at any point in any point of the year.
I mentioned Amazon. It's the mentality, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we've just done a contract with a business called Wheezy, and there's quite a few of these now popping up around London and actually all over, which is the online app, the real new sort of trendy way of ordering. And you get your groceries in 10 minutes, and if you don't get them in 10 minutes, you get them free. As
wow.
you know.
10 minutes. How do we make that sustainable, though? Because you're ultimately going for kind of like the dominoes effect, where it was, if you didn't get your pizza in half an hour, it was free, isn't it? But bringing it to 10 minutes.
You're going to have some very fit bike riders, I think.
Like, I suppose, yeah, actually from a climate perspective, the Deliveroo style. But we're not a urban destination, and it's 80% of Gloucestershire is green. We're rural, so actually we could get an awful lot for free in 10 minutes. I can't even get up and down the hill in 10 minutes. So, how, again, thinking about the options that we've got locally to be able to actually fulfil this. If we lived in the city centre or the town centre, that would probably be something that those businesses could achieve. But I suppose when you're a hotel in the middle of the countryside, a country house hotel, I'm always very mindful when we're trying to buy local hen eggs for breakfast the next day, and we say that they're local, and then you put the order in and they're not, they come in and they're not, and it's like, it's printed. There's that issue of wanting to do the right thing but not being able to deliver it, as you say, so it's missing. But how do you tell a guest that it's actually not what it says it is today? Because labelling is different from menu design, and you got to print on a menu, but you're actually missing ingredients that are on the menu because you can't get them in today. So there's that supply demand. What do we do if that doesn't happen?
It's a tricky one, and I think I don't think, you know, that app you described, I don't think it is sustainable long term, that 10 minutes groceries for free. The problem is it's really hard to break that consumer mentality. It is in there now. How many times do we watch like a documentary that says something about how Amazon treats their warehouse workers or something, like, we're not going to shop in Amazon, and then it's late at night one night and you're like, oh, I really need that tomorrow kind of thing. We're now in an instant consumer society. But it is possible to change that perception, I believe. You know, yeah. For example, on our bars, we've introduced for COVID a queuing system. You know, instead of having everyone just flood in the bar, there's a queuing system. Yeah, exactly. And what's actually incredible is it's actually sped up service. Having that queuing system and having that system it is sped up service, and people actually get used to a system. Nobody complains now about queuing because they've had it for that, you know, for the past 12 months since hospitality has reopened. But I think it's going to be hard to change that mentality. But I think we can work on it because it isn't sustainable. It's just not, because there's the farms in this case, there's the actual workers underneath. The consumer doesn't realise the amount of labour that's gone into delivering that product to them within 10 minutes. The amount that cyclist has probably had to cycle to get the groceries there in 10 minutes.
So hopefully no punctures. But I think it's we've got to change the whole perception of how people think that they can just put their hands on anything they want at any time. And actually, I think being rural, people see farms, so farms are much more real here. And people understand that, you know, if you're seeing lots of wildflowers and lots of hares, then there's biodiversity to that land, and maybe those farmers are doing something better. And maybe I want it from there. But I think then the rest of those farmers have to come together. A good supply chain has to be put in place for places that are saying they're having free-range hen eggs at that point, and making sure that you have 2 or 3 of those suppliers, and they're either working together, or your supply chain is making sure that you are, you know, you're managing that system, so you are being able to deliver those. Because really, you shouldn't have something on there if you think you can't. Yes, there's always problems, and we had a problem with one of our grains this week because of the weather so bad and all the rest of it. But we've got, you know, the backstop.
It's having those alternatives, isn't it, in the pipeline?
Yeah.
That's what's difficult about the supply chain. It's depending on how tight and how specific the product is. If it isn't deliverable the next day and it's on your menu and that's what somebody's booked 2 weeks prior to be an experience for them, then how do you make that sustainable if it's not available yesterday for delivery today?
Well, I think you've touched on it a couple of times with the word collaborative and collaboration. It can't just be one farm, because then you've just got a single point of failure. Really, you've got that your free range egg situation. You need to have those multiple farms working together. It's got to be almost not going down. Or you could go down the cooperative kind of style, but it is having that multiple farms coming together to go. We can't supply the eggs today, but we can. For example, we can step in. We've got that capacity.
Like a backup plan all the time.
Yeah.
We've been talking about planning in quite a few of these sessions today.
Yeah.
A plan and then a plan. Survive and thrive was another one. I was thinking about cost actually when we were talking about that 10-minute delivery, managing the consumer expectation. Again, you talk about experiences of the ready meals, but also the afternoon tea experience. There are limits to what people will pay. And the minute you put your prices up, they kind of disappear. How do we manage consumer expectation on cost, what it's going to cost them to experience that experience, if you like, when we're really trying to think responsibly about what's included in the food, but it's going to cost us a bit to put it together?
Do you know what? And being from the dirty word ready meal and fighting that, and there is an absolute ceiling to a ready meal. And we could take that price down and we could battle with everybody else. And I've thought this, and I've thought this about any kind of premium product. No, if we do that and we keep going down, then it won't work. Your whole business model. I think that there are so many more. If we educate people about sustainability, about what that cost is to produce that product, then more and more people, because of COVID, because of Brexit, there are more and more people that want to know the origin of that food and how that food was reared, raised, produced, and we shouldn't have to. And I'm against people putting food in and loss leaders at this to produce it. If we've done the right thing, then there has to be a marketplace, and we have to stand together and create that marketplace for better food.
I was just going to say, I think the struggle in terms of changing consumer perception, though, is the supermarket price war, though, because that really sets the bar of how much something can then cost. Because then they'll go, well, I know how much a waiter costs per hour, so it's just the service charge then that's on top. I mean, the amount of times you hear someone go, well, I know how much I could get, I could buy a whole cake for that price if I just go down to my local supermarket. Yeah, exactly. So that supermarket price war is constantly pushing those prices down. Things aren't increasing really in supermarkets, really. So
no, there's a lot of supermarkets trying, isn't there, to bring on local support, and Mid-Counties Co-op very much on the best of our counties, and Morrison's on British food. I think they're all trying to, and hopefully that they'll realise that those have to come with a premium. It'll stop the supermarket shopper recognising it, that there is a premium to that, because supermarkets don't help. Asda chicken at $3.95 and a ready meal at £5 is always going to be a difficult one.
Devalues food, doesn't it?
It a massive devalues food, and that ability to have whatever you want from whatever place in the country or the world. Tomorrow. It's not done a world of good to many people.
No, and I think that it's telling a story, isn't it? Going back to provenance. Yeah. If we are better, we've gone through the changes around ingredients and allergens on our menus, but actually, perhaps if we talk about the story around where those ingredients came from, the consumers would be more inclined to pay a bit more for it if they knew how important the origin of it was and how much it's actually cost the business to be able to deliver that to them. But it probably tastes so much better. Well,
it's interesting you say that, because we do it with wine. When we pour wine, people want a story. You talk them through the entire, this grape comes from this place, and we go through all that. But there isn't that same interest with food, and we need to be giving that story to food.
Yeah, I always think it's, people will go into Costa Coffee, Starbucks, and they don't think twice about spending coffee and cake for £10, but they'll absolutely moan at spending £5 for a full meal.
Yeah, and actually, when you take the kind of ready meal analogy, although it's a premium product, there is that argument there with the association. We talk about that. What did you say? You class the ready meal as the devil or something like that. The devil word. But it's that association of cost. And actually, we were out in farm market in Dobbies or one of those, and they had freezers with frozen ready meals, but they were £15 for a slightly smaller family size, say moussaka or something for the family. You go to Morrison's and you're expecting like a £5 because you get used to seeing it on the shelf for a ready meal at a £5, but actually going there it was 3 times the price, and we still bought it because the labelling had a little story around provenance more, and I guess the look and feel of it felt better because we haven't tasted it yet. But hasten to add, it tasted really great. So going back to the kind of wine, we talk about origins and where the grape comes from and the smells and the scents, but the aromatic experience of eating food, if it's done properly, is just as great of experience, but we've got to tell the story. So we talked about fulfilling desire earlier on when we were kind of planning our session, and this is a really big desire, isn't it? It's something that we wouldn't be doing the session if we didn't think it was an opportunity as part of kind of recovery in the county, this kind of build back better. How do we fulfil the desire? Because we've talked about, I suppose, things we could do, but we're talking about a whole sector that has to come together. Grassroots, farm to fork. How do we get the buy-in? What would you say? I mean, you've had the experience in wider networks to pull groups of people together. I wonder, I suppose, specifically if we thought Gloucestershire, who do we need around the table to kind of make this happen, do you think?
Do you know what? Just people like ourselves and even more. It's not a bad, why don't we start going direct to some of these things that are set up within the county that we're in? We all already work with the Nelson Trust with all our waste going there as part of Gloucestershire and making sure that we're sustainable. So if we started by putting out across, some social networks, who does this, let's have a sit down and just do it at a very grassroots level. We don't need to put too much infrastructure into place, but actually you need this, I've got that. You need this and I've got that. I've got a van that's spare on those days. I can deliver those 3 things together because we're in that area. And that's a lot of how we first put a little bit of it together. And you realise, like in the circular economy, everything comes back, doesn't it, to where you first started. Let's have a look what you need and what you want and what can we provide you with, and see who else we could actually help out, because they haven't got a van at this point, or they have, or I think it's just helping out.
I guess we need to put the pressure on the suppliers, the supply chain, because actually who we're buying from is just as important. You and I were discussing our supply chains in an earlier conversation, and actually they could be part of the conversation. We're all very connected. But we've been talking about food and drink in Gloucestershire for many years, pre-COVID, and there's been a desire to buy locally. There's food strategies out there that say we want to collaborate and buy local and shop local and everything, but we haven't managed it. Do you think that there's a silver lining to COVID that's made us better connected and we could maybe make it happen, or are the policies and plans of the past still yet to come to fruition? Can we do it pre-COVID, do you think? Are we in a tightly knit community now where we're working better together, that we could make this happen?
I would say yes. I would say that, as I said, the entire industry has had to reevaluate itself, and prices can't keep going down, margins can't keep going down. We need to be working together. And when you said about the van, I was just thinking to myself, we send our van every day from the town hall up to the pump rooms and back down every day, just maybe with just a couple of things. And that's a huge, big sized van going and doing that route. We can actually collaborate. And there are times when I'm like, man, the van's in for a service. How are we going to get this food up to there? And it's just that collaboration between businesses, rather than seeing it as this, cutthroat, or we need to undercut them across the road so we can do better sales. It needs to be that collaboration, really. That is the key to it. And I think we can't do it.
I definitely do. There's a lot of really, really good producers here. And I'm at a meeting tomorrow at the Gloucester Services with Jessie's Ladies, with Freesties, all businesses here in Gloucestershire, because we've got use of our vans and we've realised that we're doing exactly the same routes, we're going to the same places, and we're taking a different van each time. So, it's starting, and actually all we need to now do is actually link that to where we've got outputs and say, we're all starting to work together. Let's work with you guys as well. And we've made our own little distribution network which is straight away cutting, parts out that might be, which means we will keep more of that margin, which is great because food producers really, really need it. It's hard graft, but we've got the relationship straight in, so actually ordering processes will be easier, and we're more sustainable because of our carbon footprint's lower. So actually, just sitting here thinking about it, I think we are doing it. It's only come post-COVID that we are sitting down now as the producers of Gloucestershire and seeing how we can work together.
And I would say the hospitality industry, we've always had it ingrained in our head to always look at the price of the product, cost of sales and labour. That's what we're always looking. And it's like, well, we need to reduce labour, or we need to increase the price, or the gross profit isn't right on this product. Rather than actually thinking to ourselves, we are paying every month for this van, how can we reduce this cost? We are paying every month for this, how can we do this better? And experience and sharing the knowledge. Just the other day I had someone ring me that was from a local hotel, and they were saying, we're struggling to get staff, what can we do? Can we do a partnership where we, like, on your quieter days we can give you some of ours and vice versa, so that we're sustainable and surviving through? Because it's wider than just the one business. The entire industry needs to bounce back, and we need to work together across everything.
Yeah, again, it's part of that recovery process, isn't it? We're in a limbo. I think there's still uncertainty out there with variants, and I know businesses, we're talking to business owners sat here today, and I guess they're listening to us, and it is all possible. You're talking about groups coming together and local hotels thinking, we could do with the help. Let's ring round and talk to our local businesses. But actually getting this off the ground and actually making it happen is those early starts of the kind of groups that are forming. But we still are in an uncertain time with the sector, and some businesses might be really struggling. There's been no in since Boxing Day when we kind of closed. Where this takes some resource to be able to do this, and some real buy-in. Businesses are sat there right now listening to us thinking, I just haven't got the money to get involved. What would you say to those people that just think we desperately want to do this, actually we haven't got any money to be able to do it?
Well, I'd say the first thing is shout about it, be vocal, because I only know, we only know what we know, really, and we only know the business that we're running and businesses that approach us. So if you are in that situation, be vocal about it and reach out to us and local businesses. Yeah.
What do you need? It's not going to cost you money. It's going to save you money, really, if it's done correctly, because we'll just work together and see where we can all help each other.
It's like one big community, isn't it? I guess
and
we're in it together.
We're trying to be, yeah.
I was thinking to Procure together is kind of this. It doesn't have to be about food and drink either. No. I know that there are groups that formed through the pandemic locally who, when it comes to basics like toilet roll and other necessities to run your business, actually doing it together has saved them money, but also it's one delivery into the area from mileage perspective. When we think about climate and environment and all those impacts, there are lots of subgroups, it sounds, that are taking shape, and I guess they perhaps need to come together. I'll use the word collaboration, but they could collaborate and create a larger group that then could make bigger outsets. So I suppose to conclude today, it'd be really interesting to just kind of finish up with, if you had to take the kind of survive and thrive aspect. We're surviving right now, aren't we? We're in this food and drink sector. We've got people just coming out to play in hospitality right now. I'm surviving, we want to thrive again. What would be one of your recommendations for business owners who are surviving? How could they get involved and perhaps work towards thriving again?
I would say stick to your ethos, stick to being authentic to what it was. Don't cut your corners, don't do things less well because you think that you'll win at this point. Stick to your guns. We've taken an awful hit through it, but we're going to do it right, and that gives a much better legacy, and I think we will get a platform of very good people that want the right things. So just stick to your guns.
Yeah, and I think as well on that, it's the consumer journey, and just being vocal about it. I went to, when outdoor hospitality returned, I went to a local pub, and I could tell they were understaffed. And it's just, the guy came out and he said, "Look, I'm really sorry. We are just slammed. Everyone has come out." And I was like, "No, that's fine. I'm going to support you. I understand that table service has had to come in, and you're not used to table service, and you've got to learn it." It's just about, your loyal customers will return to you if you explain. I think there's always been this illusion in the past that we've got to, pretend that it's all smile and, yeah, it'll be fine. But I think in this stage, people are just really eager to get out. When we closed the pump rooms and then reopened, we had loyal customers coming back up. Actually, we had some in tears saying that this has been such an amazing thing for the local community. And it just at that point, our staff were like, wow, this is great. We've got this connection with people. Your customers will return if you just share the story and just let them know what you are currently going through.
The experiential, I think, is bigger than everything. We've had to live in our homes, haven't we? So going out, going shopping, going to the pub, doing anything, it's going to be better than sitting in our homes.
Definitely. I think community has also come forward, hasn't it? Food and drink suppliers, restaurants and others were great during the first lockdown when we all needed something desperately on the table. It was almost like we'd forgotten. Supermarkets were really busy. People didn't want to go out. They couldn't go out. But actually our sector turned around and fed, I guess with perhaps your business, were you able to turn it around and start feeding locals? And
we did, and we had had that part. And we changed our model for that, actually sending out some direct to consumer and sticking the food in local pop-ups, which worked really well. So as to keep people away that didn't want to go to the big retail supermarkets, and hopefully, obviously, basket sales have increased through that because we're kind of basket sale, which everything in sort of, if you're doing it well, tends to be a basket sale, and I think that's helped grow for people diversifying during COVID.
Well, thank you for joining us today to talk about Procure Local. I hope we've given you some insight into the ways in which you could think about as a business owner to procure locally, and we'll catch up again soon. Thank you.